Hi, I'm Alexa.
And I'm Andrea.
Welcome to As You Are.
And in today's episode, we're talking about habits and how we have overcome bad habits and made some progress in them. And we want to emphasize how important it is to overcome those bad habits because they get in the way. And since we have talked in previous episodes on how to become the best version of ourselves, I think it's so important to overcome them because they don't only get in the way, they get in the way of making some progress. We lose energy, we lose focus. It also can affect our mental health. And we were talking about habits as we were preparing for this episode, and we both struggle with some common habits, and that I'm sure that we all struggle with some very similar habits. So we want to dive deeper into those. But first, I wanted to talk about like how a habit becomes a habit. So it's basically a loop, like a 3-step loop. So it's cue, routine, and reward. So everyone can understand. Let me give you like an example. So the cue is, it could be the alarm. And then the routine, which is the bad habit, is snoozing the alarm. And then the reward is you get to sleep a little bit more. So it's a loop that it becomes a bad habit when you repeat it regularly. So repetition is what creates the bad habit, and it changes from being like a conscious behavior to an unconscious one. So after a while, instead of you being like, oh, I'm actually tired, let me snooze my alarm, you just like keep snoozing and snoozing and snoozing.
Right.
So that's like, that's when it becomes a loop and it becomes unconscious and it becomes a bad habit.
And it becomes like second nature. You just keep
Second
doing
nature.
that over and over and over again.
Yeah, without realizing that you're actually doing or without willingly choosing to do that. It's just something natural that it's like second nature, as you're saying. It's just, it happens. Like you're automatic and you don't think about it and you just do it that way. So we wanted to explain first how they're formed, so then we can talk about our main ones. Do you want to start?
Yeah, it was actually very hard for me to think about bad habits. I guess I have a hard time categorizing habits or bad habits in my head because I'm of the mindset that if you do something, it's because of your mindset. And for me, I feel it's like a lifestyle thing. It's never like one habit isolated. It's probably multiple habits just in terms of the mindset that you're in at the moment. So if you're feeling very lazy and unmotivated, you might have like a set of bad habits that you're like doing in a cycle, but it's like a particular part of your life. And then if you're in a part of your life where you're a lot more alive and like motivated, then you might see that you automatically have good habits.
Right.
So I guess it was hard for me to pinpoint a bad habit when, if for my case, it's just been a bad mindset. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a good point that you bring that up because bad habits also come from like a deeper issue in a way. So it's something that like we were talking about previously. It's you develop the habit just because you're trying to avoid something else. So let's say it changes depending on the example that we can talk about it later, but you're trying to delay something. For example, the alarm is just like you're delaying waking up at that time, so you're just snoozing. So it's like a deeper issue instead of just like, oh, I'm lazy that day. It's just like something that it's happening more.
Well, we can start with the delaying the alarm because that's something for both of us that we have struggled with before and maybe now. I feel like now for me, I'm at a point in my life where I am snoozing in the morning.
Yeah, same.
But I know that whenever I change my mindset, it's very easy for me not to snooze anymore. But I think like how you're saying, there's always a deeper meaning behind it. And the motivation for getting up in the morning, I think is a big factor in snoozing versus not snoozing.
Yeah, totally.
At least for me.
Yeah. No, I agree. For example, I've noticed 2 versions of myself in terms of like the alarm. Like previously when I was like super motivated as you're talking and I was like, my schedule was on point and I was like following all my routine to the dot. It was very easy for me to wake up in the morning. I was motivated. I was excited. I was looking forward to do whatever my routine was. But currently it's been hard for me to not snooze the alarm. It has become a habit, regardless if I'm tired or not, because I've thought about this because it becomes annoying at some point. It's like you feel you lose control over
Yes.
yourself.
Yes. Very
And
true.
I don't like that. So it's frustrating in a way. And I've
Mm-hmm.
thought about it. It's like, why am I snoozing the alarm so much? And sometimes I'm, of course, super tired. But other times it becomes like a habit and
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even tired anymore. It's just like, oh, 5 more minutes. It's like, it's part of the routine. It's just because.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a good point that it also depends on the time of your life. And
Mm-hmm.
if you are motivated and you're excited and you're looking forward to that day, you wake up and you're like, actually, I'm not going to snooze the alarm. So it's like a mindset change that you're talking about. So for example, for me now is that the alarm, I'm still snoozing, I'm still working on it, but it's like, I'm not trying to be too black and white on it. And instead of like trying to completely eliminate that bad habit, it's like, because I've snoozed the alarm for hours. Like when I say
Hours?
like sometimes I've snoozed the alarm from like 6.
But you keep it at like 8 minutes, 8 minutes, 8 minutes?
Girl. Not the whole way through, but for example, I start like, let's say I put the alarm on 6 a.m.
Okay.
It's like, okay, snooze again. By that point, it's like 6:30. And it's like, okay, let me just 30 more minutes, 7. And then at 7, I'm like, okay, I need to wake up at 7:15. So it's like 7:15. And sometimes it's like, you know what? I'm just going to sleep in, So it's like I sleep in until like 8.
Right.
That has happened to me. So what I've tried to do is like, okay, I'm snoozing just once. It's like,
okay,
I'll snooze, but just once.
Okay.
And it's like making some small progress in that way. And that has helped me at least not snooze the alarm for 2 hours, I don't know if you have done something for yourself.
For me, I would say it's just getting myself excited about my day.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, not necessarily in meditation, but even like when my day is done, I've noticed that making a plan for the next day, like, okay, today I've done this, tomorrow I'm going to be doing this, that.
Yeah.
It helps me be more motivated for the day to come because I know exactly what I have to do.
Right.
And my day is a lot more structured, so it feels a lot easier to digest. Therefore, I wake up in a better space.
Yeah. And that's a great tip because if you have something exciting to look forward to, it's like, I don't know if you've seen those TikToks which are like, whenever I have to wake up at 6 a.m. to go to work and you're like all tired. And then it's like when I have to wake up at 6 a.m. to go to travel. It's like you wake up and you're like, I have all the energy in the world. People. So it's like, find something exciting. Maybe it's a change in your routine. Maybe it's your morning coffee, tea,
That's a really
whatever
good point.
it is.
Right now, what has been exciting me is my yoga practice in the morning, practicing my inversions because I'm getting better at it. So I'm very excited. And my yogurt, honey, and fruits in the morning that I'm really enjoying right now.
Okay.
And water with lemon and a little bit of salt with a straw.
Very important, people, for your teeth.
Don't drink lemon straight with your teeth.
Yes.
Use a straw.
Exactly. So making like a great routine for you to make you excited and to look forward to that day, that's a great tip.
And just remind yourself of it. Like we mentioned before, my vision board is right next to my bed when I wake up in the morning. So I see the inversions. I need to add pictures of my bowl, like I had told you, of my yogurt and fruit and lemon. I haven't done it yet, but I know that it'll be a great way to get me out of my bed.
Yeah.
Just that reminder.
Yeah. Another thing that we have both struggled with is social media.
Yeah. I feel most people, if you've ever owned a phone in your life, you've probably struggled with being on social media for just a little bit too long.
Yeah. And that, I'm proud to say, that was like my worst habit and I was able to overcome it.
Amazing.
It was
recently, or?
I would say less than a year ago.
Okay.
It was very hard. But I wanted to bring that up because we know that a lot of people struggle with that. And at some point, same with the alarm, but this one was way worse. I felt it was controlling me. And it got to a point that I felt I was obsessed. And I've never struggled with any obsession with anything else in particularly. Like, I don't usually get obsessed with things. I don't know how else to explain it. But social media was really bad. It's like I could be driving scrolling on TikTok. I
That's
could be
crazy.
like walking, scrolling on TikTok. I could be, it was specifically TikTok, to be honest.
Okay.
I could be on the restroom, like everything, cooking, like in between, like scrambling my eggs.
You're looking at TikTok at the same time.
So it became so obsessive that I started to become like really worried about how much power and control I have over myself. And I was like, okay, this is getting bad. So I noticed that I would be grabbing my phone in between meetings or in between work. Sometimes I would be like so overwhelmed at work that I would be like, okay, let me just grab my phone for 2 minutes, and ended up being like 30 minutes and you're still scrolling and you don't realize the action. It was literally just automatic to like grab my phone, unlock it, open the app and start scrolling. And sometimes, to be honest, I wasn't even like listening to what they were saying. I was just like
mindlessly
scrolling.
Yeah. It's happened to me before where if I'm on my computer, something loading, I have to wait for it to pop up. Then I just grab my phone. I'm like, okay, let's make this 5 seconds productive.
Totally.
And then I get distracted on my phone. I stay a little bit longer and then I'm like, oh, okay, let's get back to work. It's like,
yeah, totally. And something that I also wanted to mention is that habits are part of something deeper. So for me at work, for example, when I was like too overwhelmed, it's like, okay, let me just avoid that problem and then get distracted with something else. And that's when I would grab my phone. Or it's like, I don't want to do this right now. Let me just do something else that brings me joy. So that was this.
Right. It's like a quick dopamine hit. It's kind of like you're taking a shot. Like, okay.
Literally.
Okay, let's keep going with the day.
Or I'm bored in between like loading a video. So I would like scroll my phone. So it's like trying to think deeper and be like, okay, why am I actually gravitating towards this habit?
And you know what? I've noticed that whenever I don't go for the phone and I actually let myself be bored and with my thoughts and I like step away and do something else, I'll usually get inspiration for, let's say, a project that I'm working on, or I'll get an idea, or I'll say, oh, actually, maybe I should do it that way, and then get back to it. If you use your phone, you rob yourself of that reflection moment where you could have then, when you got back to work, been more productive with whatever you were doing. So I think as you started saying, like at the beginning of the episode, that if you just let the habit overcome you, then you're robbing yourself of progress or of...
Yeah, you're not letting yourself making any progress and you're like sabotaging yourself, basically.
Yeah, it's like self-sabotage. Yeah.
So in my case, I was like too deep in that bad habit. So I was like, okay, let me do something because it was controlling me.
Yeah.
So the only thing I could think of was deleting TikTok, because I didn't delete Instagram or YouTube or whatever because I wasn't that obsessed with those. So I could live with those on my phone. But I deleted TikTok and I was like, okay, I'm not even letting myself download the app until at least like a month, until like I flush or like the need to use my phone.
Okay.
So I deleted the app, and it's crazy because I would find myself literally in between tasks, grab my phone, unlock it, look for the app, and then I'm like, oh no, I don't have it. And it's like, fuck.
What do I do?
No, literally, it's like, what do I do now? And it was uncomfortable in the beginning. I was like, it's like you didn't like finish the task that you were doing. So it's like, it felt super uncomfortable in the beginning, to be honest.
Yeah.
But then you have to sit there, and it's like what you were saying, like those moments when you don't distract yourself or your mind. It's like when you reconnect with yourself, or in your case, you get more creative, or you don't lose your train of thought of what you were doing. So in those moments, it's like, okay, I have to sit with myself while that video loads, you know? Right. Like you have to
you really have to allow yourself to be bored. And these little 5 seconds are so important for our brain to catch a break. But if we just, instead of letting it catch a break, open our phone and go on social media, it's counterproductive.
It's super counterproductive. Yeah. And sometimes, some days I was like I had so much work and I was like nonstop on my laptop. I was like tick, tick, tick. Then my phone, tick, tick, tick. And then it's like, tick, 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 tick. My brain wouldn't stop for like 10 hours straight. Right. So it's like, that's not healthy.
Yeah.
So it's just being conscious about your habits. It can change from people.
So how did sorry, I'm cutting you, but how did it work deleting the app? What was the progression from there?
I just deleted it and I didn't download it until like literally we started this.
Until we started the podcast?
Yeah.
And have you been back at it or?
I've been back at it, but I've been able to control myself a lot more. Because I lost in the beginning, like when it was a habit of mine, it was just like the action of like taking my phone and looking and start like doing this. Versus now I'm more conscious about it, and I'm like, if I'm scrolling, I'm like listening to the videos. I'm like being more conscious about it. The thing with habits is that they become unconscious actions. So it's like you are not thinking about them. It's just like you are thinking them out of habit.
Yeah, I like what you just said. I think for me personally, what has helped me manage my social media intake is mindful scrolling.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between mindless and mindful scrolling.
Yes.
As I'm watching stuff, I'm like, okay, I'm on social media, I'm watching this video. And it's kind of like at the beginning, I think it was one of the very first episodes, we talked about narrating what we are doing.
Oh, yes.
And that helps me stay mindful and present in anything that I do in life. But also with social media, it's like, okay, I'm watching this video now and paying attention to what I spend time on, because basically curating your algorithm. Like if you spend too much time on a silly video, most of your videos will be very silly. So for me, I try to be very mindful of what I give my attention to and what I feed to my brain, because that's what you're doing. You're feeding information to your brain. Yeah, so I would say being on social media, it's not a horrible thing. I've learned so much on social media, and I've grown so much, connected with so many different people through social media. So I think it's great. You just have to learn how to manage it. One way for me is being mindful and paying attention to what I spend time on while I'm scrolling.
Yeah, that's a good point too. So be mindful. It's a great tip. And also, like for me in this specific example, it's like when I notice I'm like spending more than 5 minutes, like the time that I set my mind to, like it's like, okay, like I have 15 minutes, let me scroll, and that's like allocating time. It's like, okay, let me just allow myself for that and be conscious about the timing and be like, okay, after 50 minutes, like being able to control it.
Right. I think that is when we talk about obsession and addictions, I would say being able to control an obsession or an addiction is a much more powerful approach than eliminating altogether.
Yes.
Because that way, I think that nothing in life is bad in itself until you do it in excess. Like anything in excess in life is bad. So I feel if you're just able to control your intake and just do everything in moderation, then you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like social media in itself is not bad. It's just how you manage it.
Yeah. It's being able to control it instead of like it controlling you.
Exactly.
It's just like it's so powerful to be able to do that.
Right. Yeah. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
Because you have control. Like you were saying, you feel like you lose control when a bad habit is taking over your life. But it's so empowering when you're able to be above that.
Yes, totally. What's the other one that we were talking about? Like we keep forgetting. Oh, I know the other one. Not replying right away.
Oh, right. I feel like both of them related to the phone, but in different ways. One of them is being attached to the phone. The other one is ignoring the phone.
Yeah.
So both Andrea and I have struggled with whenever we receive a text, not responding right away or not having our phone close to us. So when someone calls, we don't answer, and then just not being
responsive.
There. Yeah, responsive.
In a decent amount of time, we would say.
Right.
So I have struggled with that, and that I have set my mind into changing that. So I asked you before starting recording this episode if you have noticed any difference, because I did. I have tried to make a difference and an effort of changing that. And when I set my mind to that, I wanted to understand why I was doing it in the first place, because I feel it's so important to understand why you do things instead of just like trying to like rip it off. It's just like, okay, but why was I doing that? So in my mind, I was like, why am I not replying back? There's like, and you could see it's like, it wasn't to a specific person, because if it was one person, it's like, okay, I might have a problem with that person, but it was with everyone. My mom, my friends, my best friends, my coworkers, like it could be everyone. So I noticed that I was like overwhelmed, like replying right in the moment. It's like, probably because I didn't want to like, have a conversation, or maybe because I didn't want to talk about that specific topic that was in the message, or maybe I was like too overwhelmed with outside stuff. So it's like that would be adding another responsibility on my plate.
And it's sometimes though, it's like so simple. The person is just asking a basic question.
Yeah.
And even that sometimes feels so heavy to reply to.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
What has helped you?
Realizing that it's so much simpler sometimes. It's like,
if you just respond right
if I just respond right there and there, because I would be like, okay, let me reply back to you after I finished making breakfast. I finished making breakfast, and then I get a text from my mom. So it's like, now your text, then my mom's.
And now both of them are pending.
And then both of them are pending. So it's, for me, it is like an email that I never reply back. So I still have it in my mind. So it's like,
it holds space in your mind.
Space.
You know what? Now that you're saying that, I feel like for me, that's a way too that I've been able to let go of that bad habit, is realizing how much space it takes up in my mind.
Same.
And just getting it done right then and there frees up space.
Yes.
So then you can go on about your life and do what it is you have to do.
No, yeah, literally. It's like, I don't know why. It's just a text, but it just takes up a space. And I'm like, okay, I need to reply to Alexa. I need to reply to my mom. I'll do that when I get to work. And then I get to work, and then my other friend texts me. It's like, okay, now I have 3 text messages.
And then your coworker is messaging you. And then work.
And then it's like, I'm so overwhelmed with work, and I'm like, I don't have time to reply to you. And then I get home and I'm exhausted. And then I'm like, I don't have a brain to reply to you. And then I have like 5 people waiting for an answer. And so it's like, then I'm like, okay, I'm too overwhelmed to do this right now. And then I leave it up. And sometimes like I would reply back to people like after a week. Like it's,
for me, I don't think I've ever left it up to a week, but definitely like a day. And then the next day I'm like, oh, and some people I'll reply in my head.
Oh yeah.
I'll totally forget for like a good 4 days. And I'm like, oh, shoot, I never replied. I never actually replied. So then I go back to, I'm like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, totally. So now what I'm trying to do is just like, if I can, of course, sometimes I'm like driving, cooking, whatever. But if I can, I'll just reply in the moment. And initially I would be like, I will take more time and be like, so more expressive in my texts and like emojis and whatever. And now I'm like, let me just
you're
be
just
like,
to the point.
Just to the point. Hey, whatever. Yes. Bye.
Because it takes energy from you. Text messages, they take energy from you. Especially depending, like you're saying, if for me, I receive a very long message with a lot of emojis, I feel the responsibility to respond with like an equally long message with equal amounts of emoji, just to like reflect the energy back to the person and give them equal amounts of attention. But I agree that you just give what you can in the moment, you just to the point and just get it done.
Get it done.
Yeah. For me, the thing that has really helped me change my perspective on answering is when I heard someone say something that successful people have in common is they all answer their phone very quickly. And so now I'm of the mindset, you know what? I'm getting stuff done. I'm responding quickly. I'm a doer. I'm a successful human being. So that helps me be like, okay, let's get it done.
But you know, when you said that to me, I started to think about all the successful people in my life. And I'm like, yes, they do that. They're doers. They reply quick. And even emails, it's like, and sometimes their emails are so informal. It's like, oh, it's not like, hey, happy Wednesday, hope your day. No, it's like, yeah, whatever, thank you. You know, it's like more straight to the point. I guess saving time. Like, of course, there's a lot of things behind it, but it's like, they're just do it. They just don't procrastinate. They just do it in the moment and get over with.
And then for email specifically, if it's like a more formal setting, I would say just letting them know, I'll get back to you if you don't have the full response for that email right then and there. At least you're letting them know that you've received it and you're processing it, and then you'll get back. So I feel that's also, that is a quick answer in itself. It's just the actual response might be delayed, but at least you're giving them a reply.
So we wanted to end this episode with some tips. So we have 3 quick tips that you can implement to see if they can help you with overcoming that bad habit. So the first one would be replacing that bad habit with a good one. So in the beginning, we were talking about the loop, that it was cue, routine, and reward. So you get the cue, then when it gets time to do the routine, which would be the action, replace that action with something else. Like, for example, I implemented this and I had one habit that was like, I had to eat sweet after lunch, specifically chocolate. And it could be like organic, fair trade, and sweet and blah, blah, blah. But still was like chocolate. So I wouldn't think that my lunch was done until I had that chocolate. So it would be like an obsession in a way. So I was like, this is weird. And after a while of like eating chocolate, like weeks of eating chocolate, I'm like, okay, let me just change this, because it was like I started to feel that I was losing control. So whenever I felt like the cue, which was like, okay, let me eat the sweet instead of eating the chocolate, I was like, okay, let me replace that habit with tea. So, I struggle with bloating and digestive issues. So I was like, okay, let me change that to something that actually helps me. So I was drinking. I was drinking chamomile or mint tea and things that would help me with digestion after eating. But instead of eating chocolate, I would make tea. So I was like, I still was having something, but I replaced it with something better.
Yes, I love that. Energy-wise, like in physics, I don't know exactly what the term is, but it's like energy is never added or destroyed. It's just transformed. So even like as when you die and as your body decomposes, energy doesn't cease to exist. It transforms into something else in order to, say, go to the soil and then come back as something else. So energy is always transformed. So I love that tip because it's a transformation of energy in terms of it's not like eliminating something totally from your daily routine, but it's adjusting and modifying to something else. So that way I feel it's a lot more adaptable and doable, really.
Yeah, doable, because it's like sometimes when you try to go to black and white, it's too drastic of a change. So it might not be helpful to you. It might be either counterproductive for yourself. So for me, this really worked. And now it's like, okay, sometimes, of course, I'm human and I crave chocolate, but I'm able to control it. It doesn't become a habit that, okay, I need to have that piece of chocolate after every lunch I have. So it's like, okay, if I'm craving it today, I'm craving it, but it becomes more a conscious action instead of like routine.
Right. And I would say the most common example of changing a bad habit to a good one is people when they try and quit smoking, then instead of smoking, they'll do gums. So it's like the lesser evil, I guess. And so that way it helps them like transition smoother, easier.
Smoother. Yeah, it could be like smaller steps, but it's like progressing in a way. We don't vape or smoke, but I saw a girl that was struggling with vaping and she wanted to quit vaping. So she was explaining that vaping is like this action where you like grab your vape, you smoke, and then you put it down. So she was saying like that's like bad habit and like a routine, like an unconscious action that she was doing. And as she was quitting vaping, she was saying that she replaced that gesture with Tic Tacs. So like the candy. So she had the candy. So it's like kind of the same size
like her hand is it like this feels familiar, that feels familiar.
So all of that felt familiar. So whenever she felt the cue and the urge to vape, she would like grab the Tic Tac, put it in her mouth, chew like 2 candy pieces, and then put it back. So she was doing the action. And I'm not saying like candy is
good for
like
you
necessarily, but it's like it's progressive,
like
it's
like
a transition, like a progression, and she is changing something for something a little better, and then she can like continue on that. But it's like not completely trying to break that habit from 0 to 100, but it's just like being conscious and being like, okay, this is the cue, and I'm gonna choose and be mindful of choosing something better. And that's something that she helped. We or at least personally, we haven't struggled
we
with that,
don't.
but it's something
Yeah.
like we wanted to change and like give you
Because
more context.
so many of our friends vape, and it's very obsessive for them. And I know a lot of people want to quit, but they're just like, whatever. They just do it socially, but it's not really social. Even when they wake up, they do it. So it's like, I feel like it's a struggle for our generation. But there is actually someone that I know that was saying that she realized that her fixations were all to do with the mouth. When she was younger, she would bite her nails. Now she vapes. And it's like all to do with the mouth. Okay. So there is even in your bad habits, like deep rooted. There's a reason why it's for her. All her fixations are starting from the mouth. So if you're someone that struggles with these types of bad habits, like biting your nails, vaping, and all of these things, just look a little bit deeper into it and ask yourself why.
I'm sure that has a meaning. I think I saw something a while ago related to that, or people that scratch themselves or like their skin. So there's people like constantly touching their face or like not biting, but like pulling the skin. Oh, so it's like a lot of like rubbing and touching and like scratching. So that's might be something else, like, but it's like self-harm in a way. So it's like there's different things. Right. So it depends. Like I like what you said about like it's all related to something. So try to, if you have multiple habits, maybe be mindful and try to identify and then do more research about that. So if it's all of them are related to like biting or mouth or chewing or things like that, maybe you can look into that and understand why you get that cue in the first place. Yes. Okay. Tip number 2, which I think this is so helpful, and we talked about it with the social media example, is that make a bad habit hard to achieve and then a good habit easier to achieve. So for example, let's say you struggle a lot with going to the gym. So, because you want to do, I don't know, you want to stay home scrolling on your phone. So make that bad habit of scrolling on your phone harder. So delete the app or put the time. How do you?
Like timers.
Because on Instagram you can put like a timer. So when you pass 15 minutes, I think
it blocks.
So maybe do that and then make the good habit easier. So going to the gym, so have your gym clothes ready. Or instead of like being in your PJs all day, put your gym clothes on so you're ready to go. So making the bad habits harder to make your brain think about the action that you like, the routine, and make more conscious choices. So a habit is unconscious. So if you make it harder, then you have to consciously think about like, oh, I have to download the app again. So I need to go in my phone, download the app, sign in. So it's like you make it harder, and then you have to make your brain think about an extra step. So you switch that action to be more conscious.
For me, I actually implemented that for myself without realizing why exactly, but in order to help me not use my phone in moments of breaks while I'm working and make me drink more water, I put my water bottle where my phone usually is on my right side. And then I put my phone somewhere else. So that when I go to reach for something, I see the water bottle. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll just drink water. And then my phone, if I want to use it, I have to like turn around and like it's the most uncomfortable way to like reach for my phone. So that way it makes me only reach for it when it's purposeful and like I actually have to call someone or I actually have to do something.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've heard people do that with specifically with their phone. It's like put something else where you would put it. So it's like, okay, you're automatically going to reach it. And it's like, it's not you get distracted, but you then switch the focus into something else. And then it's like, okay, it becomes more conscious. It's like, okay,
yes.
Where's my phone? And also when I was like with this whole TikTok obsession, I would put my phone before deleting the app, where I was in the beginning, I'm not going to delete the app. That's too drastic, whatever. I can't control this. I couldn't. But when I was trying to, I would put my phone in the drawer of my desk and be like, okay, if I want to use my phone, I have to open the drawer. That was too easy for me to do. So I wasn't able to do any progress with that. So that's why I ended up deleting the app. But it's just like, it's like also like a trial and error. It's like, if that didn't work for you, just like try something else. It's not like one size fits all.
And actually, you can make it fun and look at yourself like an experiment. I see it in a playful. It's like, oh, look at me. I was going to reach for my phone. Like, even just being playful and not taking yourself too seriously either. It's like, it's not the end of the world. Everyone uses their phone. Yeah. Obviously, you want to be better about it. So just make it fun for you. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Laugh at yourself.
Okay. And last tip is understand, let's say you tried to change or eliminate that bad habit of yours, but it didn't work. And it's just do some more inward work and think about, okay, why it didn't work. And probably the reward wasn't as fulfilling. So going back to the loop, cue, routine, reward, the reward might not have been so fulfilling. So if we go back to, let's say, my chocolate versus tea example, maybe the tea wasn't fulfilling. I was like, what is this? I don't want tea. I want my sweet. Maybe you try, instead of chocolate, you try something else. You try dates or try to change it still, but think about why it didn't work. Probably it was the routine. Probably it wasn't fulfilling like the deeper issue in a way. So let's say if it was your phone and you were just like bored or overwhelmed, maybe go deeper into that, why you were so overwhelmed with that. So just try to do more inward work and trying to be more mindful and more connected and understand really why it didn't work, which sounds so simple, so obvious, and be like, okay, you should do that anyways. But it's not like our instinct to do that. To like, it takes effort to actually sit down and think about it. I would say it's also similar to what we were saying in the beginning with snoozing. Find a bigger meaning for your day, or find a way to get excited about your day. And I would say that it's like, that should be a bigger dopamine hit than getting the extra hours of sleep, you know? Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That was it for today's episode. We just want to conclude by saying that we all struggle with habits. We all have habits in our own ways, and it's normal. We just want you to be more mindful and conscious about them and try to understand why those happen to you, and understand that they just get in the way of progress and mental health overall. So we just wanted you to be more conscious about that and just try to make more progress over perfection, and don't be like too black and white. If you make 1% progress that day, that's better than nothing.
Yes, I agree.
So if you like today's episode, let us know in the comments, and you can subscribe on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, all the platform,
Apple Podcasts.
Apple Podcasts at As You Are Pod.
And the only way this podcast grows is if you share this content. So
subscribe.
Please do subscribe and share the love. Leave us some comments. We would love to hear what you have to say. So
yeah, it helps us a lot more than you realize.
Yes.
So, well, that was it for today, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Yes. Next Wednesday, we have something different and special planned.
Oh, yes.
We always have a little special surprise every now and then.
Yes, stay tuned.
Tune in.
It's going to be super exciting. It's different. We are excited. So the setup might change.
Yes. The setup might change.
A little bit. Not
there
too
might
much.
be a different count of microphones. We'll see.
We'll see. Stay tuned for next episode. So see you next Wednesday.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.